أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا I'll start the recording now, inshallah. Actually, before I start the recording, let's see if that is what my room looked like before the renovation. So it was a Liverpool You'll Never Walk Alone mural with Virgil's shirt there. That Virgil shirt cost me a whole day just getting rid of it. And I believe this is how it goes. Yeah, so that was me. I had to sand it all out. Me and the little guy. It's a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. Yeah, us with masks. And bought these new trims from Temu. And I have to admit, there we go. And they were a lot better than I expected them to actually be. It turned out really well. So those are the trims. You have to cut them 45 degrees and stick them on. They've got they're sticky on the back. And then let's see, I think it's this one. And that's how it is now, alhamdulillah. So there we go. And if we zoom in, that's what it looks like now. Inshallah, I'm gonna fill in the bookcases, bookshelves with my books, inshallah. And yeah, so alhamdulillah, this is the reason why last time we had to do the lesson over the phone. I expected this to be done by Thursday, but it took me until Saturday to finish, and today there was just some cleaning up left to do. So alhamdulillah, though, my office is ready for Ramadan. And now there we go. Okay. I should become an interior designer. We'll see. We'll see if the current profession doesn't work out. As long as it's a halal job, why not? Okay, so last time, I know we didn't have the screen recording, we didn't have the book up, but we were talking about what a traveler would do if they were praying behind a muqim imam, so an imam which wasn't a traveler. Also, we talked about what would happen if it was vice versa, if the imam was a traveler and the person praying behind him was not a traveler. We said that he would pray the third and fourth rakat without the imam, but also without reading Fatiha. because technically he's still behind the Imam. So he would stand up for the third and fourth rakats, and he would not recite the Fatiha. So we talked about that, and we also talked about a couple more ahkam. Now, it is recommended for the Imam to say, so we're talking about an Imam which is a traveler, complete your prayers as I am a traveler, to repel suspicion that he has made the closing salams out of forgetfulness. He should say this before commencing the obligatory prayer. Okay, so you should say this before you start the salah. And what we usually do, for example, whenever our sheikh comes over and he leads the salah, obviously he's Safari, so we get the mu'adhin to make the announcement every single salah. So every salah, straight before the fard. You don't do it before the adhan because no one's going to hear it, and also people are going to forget by the time salah starts. So it's right before the salah starts, right before iqamah, the mu'adhin says the imam is a traveler, a safari. He's going to pray 2 rakats. Those who are not travelers, pray 4. When the imam performs 2 units of prayer in a residential area, okay, this is important. When the imam performs 2 units of prayer in a residential area, so normally, let's say you're in Liverpool or Manchester, you don't expect the imam to be a safari, right? It is a condition that before or after completion of the prayer, the follower knows the status of his imam concerning whether he is a resident or a traveler. So what this means is either before the salah, the imam needs to say it, or after the salah, the imam needs to say it, so that the people behind him, they know that the imam, he only prayed 2. Why? Otherwise, they might think that they came late and they missed the first 2 rakats, because they don't expect the imam to be a traveler. So when you enter the masjid, you stand behind the imam and he only prays 2 rakats. What are you going to expect? You're going to think that you joined late and that the imam had already prayed the first and second rakats. Okay, especially if it's like a dhuhr and asr where it's silent and you have no idea, right? So after the salah, the imam should say, atimmu salatakum, like complete your prayers. Inni musafir, I am a traveler. So he should say this so that the people behind him, they know, okay, now I need to stand up for my 3rd and 4th rakat and I need to not read anything. Okay, this is not a condition outside residential areas. Okay, so if you're praying in a motorway, you should expect the imam to be a safari. If the imam shortens the prayer in a city or village and the followers do not know the imam's status, now pay attention to this, okay, their prayers are invalid even if they themselves are travelers. Okay, even if they're travelers too. If this prayer was performed outside the city, their prayer is valid. Okay, so before, this isn't something that obviously the follower is responsible for. This is something that the imam is responsible for. He should make sure that if he's a traveler, that he makes sure that everybody in the jama'ah knows that he's a traveler before he leads the salah. And usually it's best to avoid confusion. Just don't lead the salah. Let somebody else lead the salah. The traveler performs the prescribed sunnahs if he has halted during the journey and omits them if he is in motion. Some opine that the sunnah of Fajr are always performed. You never miss the sunnah of Fajr. We've said it like maybe 20 times now. It's basically a wajib. Sunnah of Fajr, you just pray it every single time. The traveler performs the prescribed sunnahs if he has halted during the journey and omits them if he is in motion. So if you are moving, then you shouldn't pray the sunnahs. If you are not moving, then you should pray the sunnahs. If one has halted and is in a state of rest and safety during the journey, the sunnahs may be performed. Although the emphasized sunnahs no longer remain emphasized, okay? Otherwise, they are omitted. The 2 sunnahs of Fajr are performed in all states during a journey and they remain emphasized. Furthermore, recitation of the Quran is shortened when one is traveling. Basically, you keep it nice and comfortable and simple and short. Okay, if you're on a motorway, you go to a rest stop, you should pray your sunnahs. However, if you're praying outside and it's cold and it's raining, then completely up to you. If you can bear it, then you can bear it, you'll get extra reward. If you feel, okay, let me just pray my 2 rakat fard and leave, then that is also up to you. When considering whether the ruling for the prayer has changed and it should now be shortened or not, okay, so then you're trying to figure out whether you're a Safari or not, basically. One reckons the state at the end of the prescribed prayer time. Okay, remember we said this about so many other things also. We look at the last minute, because that's when it is. We basically look at the last minute. That is basically when it becomes fard upon you, right? The sabab, we said. The reason for it being fard upon you is that last minute. Therefore, we look at that last minute. What were you at the end of the salah time? Why is this important? That's because you may have started your dhuhr salah time at home, and then you left, and then you were on the motorway, and for whatever reason, let's say that you missed the salah. So would you have to pray 4 as qada, or would you have to pray 2 as qada? The answer is that you would have to pray 2, because we don't look at the beginning of the time when you are at home. We look at the end of the time when you are on the motorway. Otherwise, if at the end of the time one is a traveler, it is obligatory to perform 2 units. Otherwise, he performs 4 units. For example, he performs dhuhr as 4 units, then travels during the prescribed time for dhuhr. Thereafter, he performs asr as 2 units and returns to his house before expiry of the prescribed time for asr due to a need, and realizes that he performed both prayers without performing ablution. He must perform dhuhr as 2 units and asr as 4 units, as he was a traveler at the end of the prescribed time for dhuhr and a resident for asr. So it's basically saying that he missed these salahs without saying he missed these salahs. So the way fiqh books will be, or jurisprudence books will be written is, and unfortunately nowadays it's become very normal to miss salahs, but before it wouldn't. Like a jurisprudence book, it would try to avoid saying if a person missed a salah. It would try to avoid giving an example like that. So it'll give you an example like this, where you've prayed your salahs, but then you realize you didn't have wudu, so basically you missed the salahs, right? But it makes a different example to show that missing a salah is not a normal thing, and to not make it feel like a normal thing by just giving constant examples of people missing salahs. You'll also hear this in other situations. So if you miss your salahs, we look at the end of the salah time. Were you a Safari or were you a Muqim? So in this example, it said that he prayed Asr while he was a traveler, and then he returned home for whatever reason. Okay, in normal circumstances, he doesn't have to pray Asr again. It doesn't matter. Okay, but because he remembered that he didn't have wudu, so basically he didn't pray Asr. Okay, then he would have to pray Asr as a Muqim because he's at home. One's place of domicile and temporary residence. Now pay attention to this. This ruling is very important throughout your life, depending on your home city in your home country may still count as a place of residence for you. Therefore, even though you go on a holiday and you travel to a different country, your home country, you might actually have to pray your salahs properly, as in 4 rakats. So pay attention to this subject here. So one's domicile is where one was born or married, okay, and does not intend to travel from here within 15 days from marriage. Okay, so you didn't temporarily go to Manchester to get married and then come back, okay? Or it is where one settled down and resolved to remain therein and not emigrate, okay? Now this doesn't have to be never in my life am I going to move from the city. No one ever has that intention anyways. But we're talking about, you're generally, when you say I've moved to the city, once you've moved to the city, you've made the intention to move to a city, that generally means you plan to stay there for a long time. And, in the future, you might move. That's always in the back of someone's mind. I might move one day, but it's not my intention to. So 523, this applies even if he has not married in this place. If he is an adult and his parents reside in a place other than the place of his birth, and he has not married in his current location, then this is not his domicile until he resolves to settle down here and abandon his previous domicile. From this definition, it is clear that a university student is not domiciled when living in a city more than 61.4 miles from his home. Rather, his hometown remains his place of domicile. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that unless that universal student makes the intention that, I'm not here just because of uni. I'm here because I love the city and I want to be part of the city, and I no longer have any ties to, let's say, London. So then London will stop being his residence, and this place will be his residence. But because no uni student has that intention, the uni students are all Safaris as long as they don't intend to stay 15 days. If they do intend to stay 15 days, then obviously they're not Safari, they're not a traveler anymore. But let's say a student came back for a week and then had to go back, he would be a Safari throughout that week, even in his own flat that he's renting, because the city is not his home. Now, domicile is not terminated by anything else except domicile in another place, such that he no longer has a wife in the first place. If he does, domicile is not terminated, and he completes the full prayer in both places, even if he merely enters and does not intend to stay more than 15 days. So, pay attention to this. Okay, so this is how the book explained it. This is how I'll explain it. Now, if a place or a city becomes your domicile, okay, this is what we talk about when we say Watan Asli, I believe it was called. Yeah, Watan Asli and Watan Iqama. Watan Asli and Watan Iqama. So Watan Asli is where you're from, your origin, okay? So obviously when you're born in a certain place, that's your origin, that's your city, okay? And then what happens as you grow up, okay? You become an adult, you leave, okay? So your parents are still there, or your family's still there, but you've grown up and you left, okay? Like my situation here, parents or family is in London. I moved to Liverpool. Okay, I moved here and I got married in London before I moved here. Okay, so I grew up, London is my domicile. Then I moved to Liverpool. After getting married in London, I moved to Liverpool. Now, my intention when moving to Liverpool is very important. Am I intending to leave London behind and never have anything to do with London again? Other than, obviously, I might now and then have to enter the city for whatever reason. Okay, just like Manchester and Bolton and Preston and whatnot. Okay, so I've got nothing special going on with London. I've got no ties left to London, which I'm going to keep visiting the city and coming back now and then. So if that's my intention, that I'll never go back to London again unless I have to, if that is my intention when leaving, then fair enough. Liverpool is my new domicile. Even though I married in London, even though I was born in London, even though family might be in London, I have made the intention that I've got nothing left, I've got nothing to do with London anymore. Okay? So this is the intention you need basically when leaving a residence. However, that wasn't my intention. My intention was I've got family in London, I'm going to keep visiting over and over. Every holiday I'll visit. So that was my intention. That's why, because I've never left London, really, I do keep going back. Liverpool is my domicile, and so is London. So while traveling between the two, I shorten my prayers. But once I get to London, even if I'm there for 2-3 days, I have to pray 4. Same goes for Liverpool. When I travel from London to Liverpool, I shorten the prayers during. But once I get to Liverpool, then I have to pray normal for full time, as in full rakats. So, like we said, again, domicile is not terminated by anything else except domicile in another place, such that he no longer, and it says has a wife in the first place, or it's just trying to say whatever was keeping you in that place is gone, right? So you married in London and your wife is in London and you moved to Liverpool, okay? As long as your wife is still in London, London is going to keep pulling you back to it. But obviously, in my instance, my wife came with me, but my family's in London, and my family keeps pulling me back, right? Every holiday, I go to London. Every Eid, I go to London. Constantly going back and forth to London means I haven't left London. So that's my domicile, and that's also my domicile. Right. If he does, okay, so if he does have a wife there, or he has a family there, or he has parents there, which keep pulling him back to that place over and over, right? Domicile is not terminated, and he completes the full prayer in both places, okay? Even if he merely enters and does not intend to stay more than 15 days, okay? So I spent a lot of time on this so everyone gets it, because we get a lot of questions saying like, my family's in Turkey, my whole family's in Turkey, my parents are in Turkey, everyone's in Turkey, and every holiday I go to that place. The answer to this would be, were you born there, or did your parents move later on? So that's the place you were born. So that was one time your domicile, right? Then we ask, when you left, for example, let's say Ankara, when you left Ankara, what intention did you have? And most the Turks, they'll say the intention was to go make money and come back. So they never actually left Ankara. They always planned to go back to Ankara. Not only that, they've got family there, they've got parents there, which keeps pulling them back every single holiday. They keep going back there. So we tell them, you're not a Seferi in Ankara, you're not a Seferi in Liverpool or London or wherever you're living in at the moment either. Now, the place of residence. Now, this was what? Domicile. This is what we call Watana Asli. The place of residence is Watana Iqama, the place you intend to stay for 15 days or more, where one intends to stay for half a month or more, and it is fit to stay in, okay? Ceases to be so when one takes up residence in another place, okay? So I made intention to stay in Liverpool 15 days, but I left after 10 days and decided I'm going to stay in Manchester for 15 days. So Liverpool will no longer be a place of residence for me. If I go to Liverpool, I'm a Safari. Returns to one's place of domicile, okay? Or let's say Liverpool is my city. I go to Manchester for 15 days. I intend to stay there. And once I come back to Liverpool, that place is no longer my place of residence. So next time when I go by Manchester, if I decide to stay for 3 days, I'm a Safari. Or one travels. Or for example, exactly. Now I know I gave the example of Liverpool and Manchester. Liverpool and Manchester, you won't be Safari between the two. So don't take that as a fatwa or anything. Or if you travel, so you made an intention to stay for 15 days, and then you left, you traveled. Once you've traveled and come back, okay, so we're talking about what, 61.4 miles was it? So once you've traveled and come back, that 15 days resets. So if you make an intention to stay 3 days, we don't add it to that last 15 days, right? We count it as a separate thing. That's why we said if you keep traveling between two cities, then you shorten your prayers forever. Because those 15 days keep resetting. Unless one of them is your domicile, right? Obviously, you never shorten your prayers in your domicile, your Watana Asli. As long as both of them are Watana Iqama, or neither, because you don't intend actually to stay in either of them for 15 days. You keep staying 1 or 2 days in one and then moving to another one for 1 or 2 days. Then you're just a Safari throughout. Upon return from travel, this place is not deemed one's place of residence unless one intends it to be so. And that is where the scans end. Give me one moment. I'll try and see if I can get the book. I'll quickly take scans of these. Okay, the next subject is the prayer of a sick person. Whoever finds it difficult to perform the entire prayer standing does so sitting down, pay attention, and performs the bowing and prostration properly, as much as possible. Obviously, when you're sitting down, you can't do the ruku 100% properly, but you can do the sajda. This may be due to an actual sickness that occurs before commencing or during an obligating or mandatory prayer, or the sunnahs of Fajr. The same ruling applies to cases that take the ruling of sickness. Okay, so we can say there are three ways of praying. One is the normal prayer, standing, ruku, sajda, everything is done normal. Okay, the original. Second is done sitting down, and the third one is done sitting down. So there's two ways of praying sitting down. Okay, the way you should pray whenever possible is you sit down, but you do your ruku and you do your sajda. So this one we don't say it's ima, because ima would be just head movements. Okay, we say that you're doing your ruku and you're doing your sajda, but you're just not standing. That's the only thing you're not doing. Okay, and the reason for that is because of sickness. Okay, so you're too weak to stand, or you fear that you might faint and whatnot. We're going to read the reasons here, but you're basically you're sitting down, but you're doing the ruku and you're doing the sajda. Okay, and then there's the third one, and that is only if you can't do a sajda or something similar, that you pray with just head movements, and your ruku needs to be higher than your sajda, right? So your sajda needs to be lower than your ruku. It has to be. So if you start praying with the ima, and with the ruku you put your chin to your chest, you've got nowhere to go with sajda. Your sajda needs to be lower than that. So don't make that mistake. Okay, so the same ruling applies to cases that take the ruling of sickness, such as fearing that standing will worsen or slow recovery from sickness, cause vertigo, or experiencing intense pain by standing. And we say intense as in not slightly, you've got a slight arthritis. It needs to be quite severe and bad. Okay, or you believe that you have a problem. The problem is not so severe, but you feel like if I keep going up and down, that it'll get worse, or the healing will take a long time. Then you may pray sitting down. Standing that causes urinary incontinence. Okay. Standing which is infeasible due to fasting. Part of the baby has exited during childbirth, and the prayer's prescribed time is about to expire. Obviously, you're going to pray in the position you're in. Fear from an enemy if he performs the prayer standing. Okay. Now, this has to be... Now, somebody asked me, could this be a boss which doesn't allow prayer? I said no. You know, what's the boss going to do? He's going to tell you off. He may kick you out of a job, but you shouldn't be in a job that doesn't let you pray anyways. So, fear from an enemy is not fear from your boss or your manager. Okay, this means that you fear that either you're going to be attacked or you're going to get killed, not that you're going to get a telling off. Muslims were not afraid of being told off for praying. One is in a tent and cannot stand upright or exit and perform the prayer outside the tent due to mud or rain. Okay, so you may not be ill, but for whatever reason you just can't stand. Right, you're in a tent, you can't stand in a tent. If you go outside, it's full of mud and rain. The one who has minimal weakness and fears if he dismounted the carriage, he would remain on the pathway. Not sure what that means. Must be an old-time thing. The sick person who is riding an animal, unless he is someone who can help him remount the animal. Okay. So what it's basically saying is, if someone got off the carriage or got off the horse, they wouldn't be able to get back on. I believe they would remain on the pathway. Or, if someone's there to help you get back onto the horse or get back onto the animal or the carriage or whatever, then obviously you'll have to get down and pray. The one so you'll have to stand and pray. The one performing the prayer sitting down sits in whatever way is easy and not harmful. Alhamdulillah. Okay? So you can sit in whichever way is comfortable. You could sit cross-legged. You could stretch your feet out towards the Qibla. Any other way that you can think of. You can sit like the women do with tashahhud. I've been praying like that for a couple days now. Do dua, my knee hurts. So this is actually very relevant to me at the moment. I pray my sunnah sitting down, not the fard. My right knee hurts when I put my right leg out. I need to put my right leg in, if that makes sense. So I'm sitting that way, but any way which doesn't hurt you, you're allowed to sit. This may be cross-legged or otherwise, even if it is, for example, leaning against a pillow. And this leaning does not harm him. Okay? So, alhamdulillah, if you are in a position where you maybe have serious arthritis or this or that, you could even use a pillow. So Hanafi ruling is quite easy in this. So it says here, if it is equally easy to sit in the tashahhud position as any other position, the tashahhud position is preferable. But it doesn't mean that you have to sit in the tashahhud position. Okay, and what would we say? We say, I've heard our ulama say that obesity counts as one of these sicknesses. When someone's obese, they can't sit in tashahhud position. You have to give them some leeway when it comes to sitting. And we're talking about really, they're unable to. it is what it is. They have to sit in whichever position they can sit in. If performing the bowing and prostration is infeasible, okay, pay attention here. So you can't do the ruku' and sajda. You can't do either. Or the prostration alone is infeasible. You can do ruku', but you're unable to do sajda. Okay? He uses head gestures. That is the third type of prayer. Okay? And necessarily makes the prostration lower than the bowing, and you have to absolutely make your sajda lower than the ruku'. So, as if I'm in sitting down, okay, my ruku' is half down, right? So I was here, half down. My sajda from here would be fully down. So for sajda, I would put my chin to my chest. As long as that doesn't give vertigo, I could put that. But ruku' would be halfway, and standing would be this way. Okay, that's how you pray. Now, this is only if you can't do sajda, or you can't do ruku' and sajda. Which means, if you can't do ruku' but you can do sajda, what should you do? You can't do ruku' but you can do sajda. You should do number 2, which was, you sit down, you do ruku' slightly with your body, not with your head. You do ruku' slightly, you get back up, and you do the sajda properly. Okay? If you can do. If a person is unable to sit, okay, he performs head gestures lying down on the back and legs extended towards the direction of prayer. Okay, so what this is saying is basically, if you're unable to sit, but you're also unable to stand. Okay, why? Because if you're able to stand, but you're not able to sit, then you should stand, face the Qibla, and do head movements. Okay, because lying down is the worst case scenario. So what it's saying is you're unable to stand and you're unable to sit. So you have to lie down. Okay, then you perform your head gestures lying down on your back, and your legs are towards the Qibla. So where is your face facing? Towards the ceiling. Now, if possible, you should have a pillow towards your back, just so your face faces the Qibla, if possible. But you don't have to, okay? Except that he raises his knees and the head slightly supported by a pillow underneath the head. Alternatively, he lies on his right or the left side. How does that work? Your face faces the Qibla, so you're on your right side. Your feet aren't towards the Qibla, but your faces. Or you're on your left side, your feet aren't towards the Qibla, but your faces. And if you can't face the Qibla, you still pray. If unable to perform head gestures, and the missed prayers become many, okay? So more than a day and night of prayers, so 6 is the magic number always. The obligation to perform the make-up of obligated prayers falls, even if he maintains his rational faculties, okay? So he's very aware that he's missing these prayers, but there's nothing he can do. Okay? He can't stand, he can't sit, neither can he move his head. So how do you expect him to pray? He can't. He does not perform gestures with the eyes, the heart, or eyebrows. There is no salah like this. Okay? Some say you can do it with the eyes. I've heard that many times. However, Hanafi books, they always say you just can't. Not with the eyes. It doesn't work. If he first becomes sick during the prayer is completed to the extent possible, even if it is sitting with head gestures or lying on the back. So you started off healthy, right? So you started off standing with your Allahu Akbar, you were doing your nice qiraat, and during salah you started feeling worse and worse and worse, and your right knee started hurting, and then you felt a rash on your back or whatever. So you carried on sitting down was hurting, so you started lying down. So you have to make sure that you finish the salah, even if you finish it lying down. If he regains health whilst performing the prayer sitting down and bowing and prostrating, he continues the prayer. However, if he is performing the prayer with head gestures and becomes well, he does not continue. Okay? So if you were doing the ruku' and the sajda while sitting down, and then you felt strong enough to stand, then you should stand and carry on. But if you are only using your head, you're not allowed to stand and carry on. You need to start the prayer from scratch. Similarly, if he is performing the prayer with head gestures whilst lying down and then becomes well so that he can sit, he does not continue, rather he starts anew. So if you are lying down, you cannot go from lying down to sitting. You can't go from head gestures to standing. What's our time? Whoever becomes insane or unconscious for a period, a day. Sorry, one moment. I'm unable to zoom out. Interesting. Okay, we'll stop here, inshallah. Well, let's because we're going to carry on after Ramadan. Let's not leave it in the middle of a subject. So, inshallah, after Ramadan, we are going to carry on from the unconsciousness and insanity. So, alhamdulillah, basically after this point, we finished the subject on salah. Now we're on, how a sick person prays, how a traveler prays. We did all that. Now it's about, if someone faints and if someone becomes crazy and things like that. So, alhamdulillah, we basically managed to finish the subject on salah. Now, during Ramadan, why aren't we going to have lessons? It's because normally everybody's free after about 5 or 6 p.m., which is exactly iftar time and then tarawih time. So instead of, forcing everybody to eat their food really fast, and right before Taraweeh, listen to the lesson, and then somehow travel to the masjid to make it in time for Taraweeh. It would be better if we just postpone these lessons, let everyone have a comfortable Ramadan, and we'll see. We may, it's unlikely, but if I might send a poll out asking if people are available during a certain day or during a certain time during the day. And we might do a lesson or another book, Qisasul Anbiya, maybe something similar throughout Ramadan. But if no one has time, which is normal, people will be working during the day, then, we won't have anything going on during Ramadan. We'll see each other again after Eid. I did just realize that I never recorded this, but YouTube automatically records it, so I'll get the recording from there. I also wanted to say, those who are in Liverpool, inshallah, I will be leading the Eid prayer in Abdullah Qudium at the 11th hour, at 11 a.m. basically. So if anyone's interested, I'll just let you know, so no one later on comes to me and says, why did you never tell me? Obviously, I'm not telling you so that you come and join behind me and nobody else, but just so nobody turns around and says, I never knew you were going to lead the salah. There you go, there's the information there. Abdullah Qudium Eid prayer at 11 o'clock, inshallah. That's all I was going to say. The Samarkand magazines, the ones I introduced you guys to, unfortunately, I'm also waiting for mine. There has been, I'm not sure what exactly the delay is. They never tell me details, but they keep saying that they're going to send them out. Normally, they were very good. We've been doing this for, 25 years or something similar. We've been doing this for a very long time. These sort of delays sometimes happen, but not to this extent normally. So I have gotten in touch with them and I've told them, listen, you're making me look bad. I've told these people that they're going to get their magazines and everything, and we send it out monthly, and now it's been almost 2 months now and no one's gotten their magazines. They told me, they apologized. They said, you're right, we did make you look bad. And they did tell me that if people do want refunds, obviously they can get a refund. I would recommend, genuinely, as someone who also buys these magazines, I would recommend not to get a refund. These magazines will come to you, inshallah. But if you're tired of waiting, or you've lost faith or trust in us, which is completely normal, we told you we'll send you magazines every month. It's been 2 months and we haven't sent you any. Then obviously, if you want, get in touch with me. We'll get you your refund, no problem, inshallah. Okay, وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.